I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBN, we explore a powerful book. It is called The Freeway Flyer and the Life of the Mind. It is written by a terrific author. Her name is Jean Waggoner, along with a co-author by the name of Douglas Snow. It is an insightful and thought-provoking look into the lives of part-time professors navigating modern academia. This fictional yet strikingly authentic tale highlights the hustle, humor, and heart of those chasing intellectual fulfillment on the fringes of the academic world. With wry wit, deep friendship, and glimmers of hope, this book is a must-read for educators, thinkers, and dreamers alike. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Jean, great to see you here today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to, before we get into it too much, I want to just thank all the other people. David Calvin Gogarty is sitting next to me. He contributed a little bit. He has taught in various places, but his job is economics, so not full-time teacher. Then we had also Gary Brown, Dr. Wendy Flint, Emily Hebner Young, Joan Corporer, Roxanne Ploss, Pamela Smythe, Ben Sweet, and TK Vest. So those are all people who contributed something.
Okay,
And
wonderful. Well, we're
they helped
glad.
me get it together because it was a lot of work for somebody's working, three different colleges all over the place.
I know. I've actually worked as an adjunct professor myself at various colleges, and I know it can be a tough lifestyle going from college to college if that's what it takes. Sometimes doing many more classes than the tenured professors, so it can be rough. It is rewarding as well, though, because you are a professor, you are in the classroom, and you are sharing your knowledge with the students. And that, of course, is a wonderful and rewarding, and a reward in and of itself. Talk to us about your life as an adjunct, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, and why you wrote this book.
Well, first of all, I don't mind driving. I'm a Californian. I started driving at 15 and a half, and driver's ed.
Yep.
Uh, so I actually enjoyed some of the driving. There's a passage in part of the book about driving up the mountain from the eastern side at night. And I'm no stranger to night driving, and I didn't mind when we first moved to Idlewild. I was still teaching at Long Beach City College. And in summer, I was teaching at Claremont. And my other school was Riverside City College downtown, and then College of the Desert way out in Indio. So I got a lot of driving in.
You've racked up a lot of frequent flyer miles, hence the name of your book, The Freeway Flyer and the
Freeway
Life of the
Flier.
Mind, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and most of my friends were doing the same thing. My friend Emily Hebner, who still lives in Idlewild, is still teaching, and she's at Chapman, and she picks up some other things at other various colleges. And her husband is doing the same kind of stuff. They're both at Chapman part-time, and they've been doing this for 15, 20 years, and they've also taught at Idlewild Arts because they have skills in fine arts. So, and Idlewild Arts is in our town. It's a fine arts high school. I never did that one, but I do understand the draw for that. And a lot of my friends have done just outrageous numbers of different places. And because we're Californians, most of us started driving at 15 and a half. We got our driver's license or we got our learner's license. And I took a driver's ed program at Ramona High School, which is in Riverside. And so I had plenty of practice before I took my test. And I took my test in a Volkswagen because that was my mother's car. It was a Bug. So I had to learn how to drive stick. Um, but I've been driving ever since, and most people, at least in the far west, know how to drive. I never met any. I met very few, let's say, people who didn't want to drive. I had a friend who had a terrifying experience with her first drive out of the driveway with her dad, and she never went back to driving. She was from Hickory, North Carolina, and she lived in San Francisco. She took the subway or
Yeah.
buses or cabs or whatever, but she never wanted to drive.
Yeah.
And
Amazing, amazing. But sometimes we've got to do what we've got to do. Talk to us a little bit about the challenges that part-time faculty face today. Are they unique? Are they different from when you first started? I know a lot is online today, and that's helpful, I guess.
it's helpful to a lot of people, but you miss seeing the students actually.
Hmm.
I used to go in my classroom the first day and take group photos all around the room so that I could start to identify them by name in a hurry. Then when I print that up, I'd send it around the room and they'd print their names in next to their pictures. And that helped me a lot because I taught sometimes 5 classes a semester, and that's a lot of new people to learn.
Yeah.
So that's one of the tricks is how do you get to learn your students well enough? And then if you're teaching at 3 different schools, you have 3 different systems of email to deal with.
Yes,
And,
exactly.
and so there's a lot of extra load
Mhm.
related to that sort of thing and learning the rules about when to submit your photocopy requests and when they're going to come back so on and so forth. So you have to keep track of all of that. But a lot of the other adjuncts were a lot of fun to be around and
Mm.
still have friends that, some of them are still working, but those of us who've retired or semi-retired finally
Yeah.
get to see each other a little bit more. So it's nice to see those people. And remember, as I went through kind of proofreading and seeing where I wanted to add stuff, there's a whole list of people and I'm going to I'll share it with you.
You did
Oh, he did already. Okay, I read all those names.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Talk to us a little bit about balancing humor with serious realities in this book. This book is entertaining. Yes, there's some funny stories, but there's some serious messages in there as well. Talk to us about that.
Well, I started writing it because I wanted to make sure people understood that this is what's happening to people who have gotten, I don't have a PhD, I have a master's degree in teaching English to speakers of other languages. And, some other little minor degrees here and there on top of my bachelor's. But I had friends who had PhDs that were doing this for 20 years,
Mm.
and you just wonder, how did they get so passed over?
Yeah.
Why was the adjunct pool? Well, some of us were baby boomers, and by the time I really got into it, the people in hiring were half a generation younger. So they weren't going to hire older people, especially not older
Right.
people with the kind of education I had. I
Mhm.
didn't have a PhD, but I could tell, I
Yeah.
went to Catholic schools. I learned how to write before I was in 6th grade. I was a
Right.
pretty great writer by 8th grade.
Yeah.
Um, and most of the people that I met, even with English degrees, didn't have the kind of skills.
Yeah.
They had enough to drag semi-literate 18-year-olds through 6th grade material. And that's
Right.
what we're mostly doing. It's sad, but I have to
Yeah.
say, my students were in that category.
Right. It's also interesting, though, a PhD doesn't necessarily qualify someone to be a college professor. Technically, it does, but people get their doctorates in all kinds of strange academic pursuits. And you have real skills, for example. You know how to teach English to foreign speaking individuals. So I think a master's degree and some real life experience in that case works much, much better than having a PhD in, the dualities of human nature in response to gender differences found in the subterranean continents. Right?
It sounds like a typical PhD thesis. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, no, I had my first degree was in music, and I didn't have a master's or anything, but I picked up some adult education teaching units. And I started a program that I called History and Song Program, and I went around to mostly elder care facilities. And I did Americana music. And I knew a lot about it. I had good friends that were teaching it around the country, Keith and Rusty McNeil. And they went to college mostly to extension programs and offered these short, 2-week programs or something in American music, folk music mostly, and or the various styles, jazz and so on. So I was fascinated with that. And that was before I had a master's degree, but I was able to make a semi-career out of that. I was living in my parents' guest house, so I didn't have too many horrendous expenses.
Right.
But I went around Orange County and Riverside County mostly, visiting elder care facilities. And the help would round up people and move all the wheelchairs into a sort of community room. And I would introduced the programs, and they were on different American themes like the Civil War or the Jazz Age or something. And I would use a combination of recordings and playing my guitar and singing. And I had handouts. And of course, a lot of those old people, they were sitting in their chairs going, some of them were way past it, but they enjoyed the music. And the ones that could still read and sing along were doing it. And
Yeah.
they enjoyed doing it. And they were happy for those songs that they remembered from when they were kids.
Yep.
North
Absolutely.
patriotic song.
Absolutely. What's the takeaway for readers in this book? What do you hope they learn about academia? What do you hope they learn about adjunct professors? What do you hope they learn?
I hope that they learn that we need to do something better than that.
Hmm.
And part of it is that we didn't do it before they got to college, because there's a whole cadre of professors who are teaching remedial skills.
Hmm.
Most of the students that came into Mount San Jacinto, College of the Desert, Riverside City College, other places where I taught, weren't prepared. Now, of course, if they're Japanese students who are here on a summer program, it's an intensive English program for them, and you don't expect them to be totally proficient. But some of them were better than the natives.
Yeah.
And it was because they hadn't had good teachers, or their family had had lots of problems, moved around,
Hmm.
uh, whatever. But I had so many kids that were really barely sixth grade, more like somewhere
Hmm.
between third and sixth in terms of writing skills
Yeah.
and speaking and everything else. And so you were working with raw material that took a lot
Right.
of effort. And some of them were too busy with work and home, and they didn't even have time to do the homework.
Yeah.
So you
Exactly.
just hope that you'd drill them enough and have them work in small groups so that they're learning from each other a little bit and getting a little more personal attention while they're in the classroom,
Yeah.
that they're going to get it together a little better. And most of them got it together a little better. And I thought, okay, some of these kids are not going to go in, they're going to go into something that's necessary, that might be science based. And they would have the math skills for that, and they would somehow pull it together. And
Mhm.
others would just, they'd made their parents happy. They went to college for 2 years. You know,
Yeah.
now they could go off and do something else. But I wonder about some of them, what were they ever going to do? But those little Japanese girls, it was mostly girls that came, and they came from girls' seminaries, as they called them.
Hmm.
And they were serious students. They would take the little handouts you gave them, and or if we had a textbook, I usually just used handouts for summer programs. But they would study the words, and they would learn some of the words, and you'd give them these little, fill in the blank kind of sentences to work with.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
they did it. They studied it, and it's like what we got I had a Spanish class in eighth grade that was something like that.
Exactly.
And then
Foreign language was never one of my strong suits in school, that's for sure. But you and I have Catholic school in common. I think the public schools could learn a lot from the Catholic schools because they really do emphasize reading, writing, and arithmetics, the basics. And that's what people need to be college material once they get to the higher levels of education. This book is great. Congratulations on it, Jean. The name of the book is The Freeway Flyer and the Life of the Mind. It is a beautifully crafted tale of intellect, endurance, and the search for meaning in modern academia. Jean, thank you so much for joining me here today.
thank you so much.
I appreciate your time, your insight, and your wisdom. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.